Welcome back to Jersey Matters. Recent Supreme Court actions have given new hope to those who would like to see a school voucher program. That means if you wanted to send your child to a private or parochial school, the state would give you a voucher with the value of some or all of the taxes you've paid to be used at the school of your choice. That's why it's called school choice as well. Recently, the Supreme Court approved state funds to go to a Lutheran school in Missouri for playground equipment. And they sent a case back to the Colorado courts to reconsider that state money be used at religious schools. Ellen Kolodziej has more on the Supreme Court actions. Ellen.
Thank you, Larry. At first glance, that Supreme Court ruling seems pretty straightforward. The court ruled that that church in Missouri can use government money to fix up a playground. But advocates of school choice say that ruling could have much larger implications about the separation of church and state. In a 7-2 decision, the Supreme Court said stopping a church from getting money for non-religious reasons is discrimination.
So it's not as if we're funding religious activities. We're funding, especially here, a playground that protects all children, whether they're on a secular playground or a playground operated by a religious organization.
That ruling gives hope to those in favor of school choice and vouchers, including President Trump's Secretary of Education. Betsy DeVos said we should all celebrate the fact that programs designed to help students will no longer be discriminated against by the government based solely on religious affiliation. But not everyone believes this is a slam dunk for school choice.
Although the court ruled this way on this particular question, to make the jump to school funding may not be as easy as people assume.
Gene Hallis has taught political science for more than 20 years. He doesn't believe school choice advocates should look at this as a clear-cut victory.
Judges, regardless of whether they're liberal or conservative, they tend to adhere to sort of the tradition in the previous decisions unless there's some pretty profound reasons to change their thinking. And I don't really see a new or innovative legal framework to make an argument that this should sort of transfer from funding playgrounds to funding schools.
The president of the American Federation of Teachers agrees. Randy Weingarten says it is crystal clear that the court here avoided the larger constitutional issue, and this cannot be read as opening the door for states to promote religion or expand vouchers. After this ruling, the Supreme Court wants the lower courts to take another look at similar cases that were originally called unconstitutional. One of those focused on a program in Colorado that awarded public money to help families pay for tuition at private schools, including religious ones. The other was in New Mexico. The court there had upheld a law that excludes religious and private schools from a state textbook lending program. So now that the Supreme Court has kicked those two cases back to the states, all eyes are anxiously awaiting how the lower court judges will now rule. And that's because in the past, some judges have changed their opinion once they've seen how the Supreme Court has ruled on a similar issue. And that's what's giving advocates of school choice some hope. Reporting for Another Thing, I'm Ellen Kolodziej.
All right, thank you, Ellen. To talk more about whether these recent Supreme Court actions make school vouchers more possible is Susan Caldwell, a member and lead organizer of Save Our Schools New Jersey, and Rocco G.Tomazic, Superintendent, Borough of Freehold Public Schools. Thank you so much for being here. First of all, we should point out in the beginning, both of you are against school vouchers.
Correct.
Correct. You both are against school vouchers. The Supreme Court rule is allowing public funds to go to a religious organization. Many that are in support of school vouchers see this as an opening, see this as a chink in the armor against school vouchers. Do you see it that way?
In this particular Supreme Court case, it was for rubber tire playground material. So I just saw it as an affirmation of allowing certain things to go to schools, but I didn't see it applying to school vouchers.
Now they put a footnote saying that don't take a wider view of this. This is just for playground equipment.
Correct.
However, they did send a case back to Colorado and said you may want to relook at this, and that was public funds going for tuition. Does that cause you concern if you're against school vouchers?
Well, It's possible that they saw some reason. It may be an opening of some sort, but without them actually ruling on it, then I wouldn't necessarily be overly worried. That would be well down the line, but there's far more immediate issues with the upcoming federal budget with federal vouchers.
I wanted to talk to you about something that you brought up to me about the fact that New Jersey already has a school choice program, but it doesn't cross the line from public to parochial. However, the way it's set up, and I'll let you describe it in a second, it does relieve some of the fears of people that live in school districts where they believe the schools are not getting enough funds or they're failing. Explain the system.
So it's called New Jersey Inter-District Choice Program. Districts apply to be part of it. If districts have extra capacity in their buildings, they can apply to receive students from different school districts. The state picks up the entire cost of that, which makes it very attractive to the sending district, who doesn't lose any money if a student leaves. There is some minimal transportation funding provided as well. It's been wildly popular. It's been so popular that the state has decided to cap it because they can't afford all the students who are wanting to take advantage of it.
So some students that want that program, that are in what they believe is a failing school district or failing school and want to move out of the district, would not be able to because it's capped.
Unless there's some movement. If a large cohort of students graduates, then more room frees up. But yes, in effect, that's correct.
Now let's get back to the federal budget. Because you aren't as concerned, well, you're concerned about that too, but you have a concern not only about the separation of church and state, but the constitutional separation of the federal responsibility and the state responsibility.
Correct. The federal government doesn't have to send any money to any of the schools. It's something that they choose to do. And for a long time, they've chosen to direct their money to students who are in need. My concern is that if that type of money for the 21st century or for those programs that are now diverted to vouchers, that it'll be moving away from the types of students that have traditionally been supported by the federal government.
And Betsy DeVos, who is now the Secretary of Education, wants school vouchers. She would love to see school vouchers. And it would be interesting if federal funds were used. We've never tested that case, if federal funds were used for school vouchers. Is there any concern from either of you that may happen?
Well, very definitely from my standpoint. It's in the proposed federal budget. They have already named the 21st Century After School program as a program to be cut and put forward an idea that they're going to want federal vouchers. So our concern is right away, where's this money coming from for the federal vouchers, and is it going to eviscerate the programs that already exist and work?
Susan, what is the problem with school vouchers? Why are you dead set against them? Why shouldn't a parent have the right to be able to use funds that they're already paying in taxes to send their child wherever they want to?
Well, we have a great system of public schools in New Jersey in particular. Our country's becoming more diverse. We see public schools as a way for students to learn about civics and public speaking and getting along with others. There's a whole social, emotional learning component that the State Board is looking at now, formalizing in our schools. Putting kids in silos and putting just certain populations of kids in silos is not good for our society in general.
But do you
vouchers also in most cases don't cover our neediest students. So if you're a special needs student with a huge cost attached to your education, in all likelihood, the voucher is not going to cover you. Giving somebody a check for $6,000 or $8,000 a year and saying, go find a school, we know that that's not enough money to educate a child, and then what? So in a lot of cases, vouchers wind up in the hands of people in private and parochial schools, and it's supplementing people who can well afford to pay for their child's education.
But a lot of people in poorer communities want the voucher program because they would like that more choice. Across the country, I'm not saying in New Jersey because I know New Jersey has some excellent public schools, but across the country there are people that want this voucher program because they feel trapped. They feel trapped with bad schools and they see this as a way out. And she talked about diversity too. Does that play out when people get vouchers?
I'm not afraid of competition, and I don't think any of my peers who are running public schools are afraid of competition and a diversity in where parents can go. Some people, unfortunately, make choices on where they want to go to school by what the color of the skin is that the students look like, or what the socioeconomics are of the area. There's many reasons why people might want to take choice. Well, I've had cases where policemen just don't want to send their students to the same
Although the
school.
school voucher program seems to be a popular idea in the African American community, because they're in neighborhoods many times where the worst schools are, and they want a way out. It doesn't work out that way?
Well, again, you're talking about a population that is aware of programs and is able to take advantage of them. The most difficult to educate, the poorest of the poor, aren't necessarily aware of options available to them. And then when they go to apply to these private schools, a lot of times they're not accepted. We see the same thing with charter schools. They counsel kids out. They don't accept kids. That's why this interdistrict school choice program that we have now makes a lot of sense. It's taking a kid from one public school and putting them in another public school.
Well, not accepting kids would be another constitutional battle. But we'll have to see how these couple of cases play out. It was a great conversation.
Thanks,
I really
Larry.
appreciate it. Thank you for coming in. Susan Caldwell, member and lead organizer of Save Our Schools New Jersey, and Rocco G.Tomazic, Superintendent, Borough of Freehold Public Schools. Coming up next, we continue our tour of New Jersey's state parks. Dawn takes us to a famous battlefield. Next on Jersey Matters.